Thank you for interviewing with us, Mr. Newcomb.
You're welcome.
You are aware we're speaking on the issues of religious rights and freedoms in America. So we have a couple of our questions here that we'd like to ask you that we've prepared.
Sure, go for it.
All right, so our first one. What would be your definition of religious freedom? Do you believe such religious tolerance is crucial to a flourishing civilization?
So my definition of religious freedom or religious tolerance is the ability to practice or the ability to believe in whatever religion you would like to, and to be able to do so without hindering others to do so as well. So toleration and freedom in this case go hand in hand in my definition. It's not only about your ability to practice your own religion, but it has to be about the ability of others to practice and believe in their religion as well.
Nice.
Now, what was the second question?
Okay, so the second is, do you believe such religious tolerance is crucial to a flourishing civilization? Is that kind of a mark of our progress forward as human beings?
I don't necessarily think it's necessary for a flourishing civilization. Do I think it's necessary for a flourishing democracy? Yes.
Okay.
So there's the difference.
Yeah,
I mean, there's been many powerful civilizations that have had homogenous religion. Look at the Islamic caliphates, or the Chinese with Confucianism, or even the Catholic empires of Europe that have been incredibly powerful with a homogenous cultural unifying factor.
Yes.
But in a democracy where the equality of citizens is valued over others, a non-homogeneous religious aspect can be really powerful and really important to expressing the diversity of views that makes a democracy important.
So that basically that mark of having that tolerance between religions rather than we're standing behind one as a government, that's a mark of democracy as well as kind of advancement. Does that show kind of an advancement forward as a society that we have that?
And I would definitely agree with that. And if you look at a non-democratic example, let's look at the Mongol Empire. The Mongol Empire is able to expand and have religious toleration and bring in multiple different groups in order to live under the same rule or the same government. Now, clearly the Mongol Empire is not a democracy, but the point still holds true that the diversity of people able to exist under a singular rulership was partially able to do so because of toleration. Democracy is essentially that diversity, but on a much more microcosm scale.
Yes. Alrighty. Awesome. Thank you. And then, using historical analysis, would you say societies were more benefited under a system of government-sponsored religion or under tolerant legislation?
I would say that personally, tolerant legislation benefits the individual more. The idea that one gets to practice and believe in what they would like to is more beneficial to the inherent liberty and happiness of the individual.
Yeah.
Where I think there's some contention here is that in a government-sponsored religion, or where there's some form of head of the government and head of the church in one factor, it can provide a really unifying force.
As a theocracy.
As a theocracy, or where you have a government that is, full of, or where you have a government that's consistently fueled through the religious aspects as well. And so I would say that the individual definitely benefits more there, but if you're looking at it from a nationwide scale, that unifying factor of the religion can actually be more beneficial for the nation.
Yes.
Individually, tolerance way better. Nationwide, often better if there's that singular unifying factor.
Would you agree the U.S. Constitution defends the freedom of religion, or the lack thereof, or an exercise thereof, as a civil right?
Definitely. I mean, it's laid out as plain as day in the First Amendment, and given that that's part of the Constitution, I would say that it definitely protects that. And the Supreme Court has consistently protected that right and that civil liberty over time. And so it's reinforced by the courts as well.
Absolutely. And where is the prominence of that right in comparison with other human rights?
That's a difficult one. I think that in the United States of America, religious freedom is almost akin to our ideology of our life, our liberty to, or excuse me, our freedom to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I think it goes hand in hand. If you look at the beginning of our nation, with the founding of the Puritans at Plymouth Colony and Winthrop's ideology of the city upon a hill, and yet Roger Williams and his ideology that toleration needs to be had, that's as central to our culture and our identity as is this idea of democratic values and personal liberty. And so I think it's up there for sure in equal aspects to some of our more basic and what we would consider natural rights.
Yes. All right. So then, now that we've kind of addressed some of those things, in your opinion, how can America balance that right of religious expression with the right for an individual to not receive discrimination based upon their beliefs?
And this is the question of all of history, and I wish I had an answer, but this balance in between, where do we give so much liberty and where do we give so much order or restriction? And where do those two things clash? Because at what point do we say total liberty results in chaos and total order results in too much control and not enough liberty? It's the essential question of our nation. It's the reason that this experiment can often lead to conflict and issue, and yet it is something that's really incredible to see how that works.
Yes.
So I know that kind of dodges the question, but I wish I had an answer that was more succinct.
That was a very fitting answer because, this is literally something we chose as a topic that would be a controversial one, and this is more in the attempt to bring that to light, that this is still a controversial topic, along with all the others that we've been addressing. Mm-hmm. And then, even though there's not a certain answer to the conflict, would you have any opinion on if this conflict is to be resolved by the American people and kind of just within citizens, within businesses, within that kind of thing, because they've been given that right, or is it left in the hands of the government to come up with that controlling verdict? Like, if you have any opinion on which way it should be handled.
Given that our government has weighed in heavily on the separation of church and state ideology, and that bleeds into other aspects in terms of discrimination and other aspects, I'm willing to let it be decided by the courts. Especially since this is, I think, more of a legal issue, especially in this court case, that this is maybe more legal than cultural. I'm willing to allow the court to decide and to wait for their decision even, and weigh in on that as opposed to provide a personal opinion.
Absolutely.
What would be your definition of religious freedom? And do you believe in such religions are tolerant and are crucial to a flourishing civilization?
I think tolerance, diversity of religious beliefs is important. Okay. Because, you can compare societies that are tolerant of varying, differing religious beliefs with societies that are not. In some communist countries where the emphasis is on what's best for the society, not the individual. So the emphasis is not on religious diversity in any way.
Yeah.
I think it's important to have tolerance of religious diversity, absolutely.
All right, so would you agree that the U.S. Constitution defends the freedom of religion as a civil right?
As I said earlier, I believe that the Constitution defends your right to believe in whatever religion you choose to, but I don't believe that under the Constitution you can use your religious beliefs to trample on someone else's civil right.
What is your definition of religious freedom?
I think it comes back, religious freedom stems from our forefathers. Religious freedom came as a result of religious persecution, oftentimes that when people came over, there was the Church of England and church expectations that said, you will believe this way, and it really, most of it remained within a Christian faith, Christian doctrine, but it was kind of upheld under more of a governmental type of thing, so people wanted to come to America with the right to worship the way they wanted to.
Okay. And are you aware of any religious freedom issues in this country?
I think a lot of people, it's somewhat maybe in the elected official. I know one person that was running for a Congress position in California, and they said that he shouldn't be elected because he was more extreme than Donald Trump because he was pro-life. Mm-hmm. And so we cannot have anybody in our government position who takes a pro-life position. I think that's again where we're putting sometimes the religious aspects, and the government now is saying that person shouldn't ever have a right to be in government.